Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Corner. I'm Dan De La Torre. Thanks for joining us this evening. Before we begin this episode, I wanted to give a very heartfelt thank you to a very good friend of mine, SithLordly from Spine Ticks. We had a chat this morning, and he informed me that I've been on his show for a few years, and he's changing his format a bit. He's scaling back just for him and Uncanny Swag, another good friend of mine. But I wanted to say thank you in a very special way. I was a fan of Spine Ticks, but before he knew me. He's on every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, and I never miss it. I make certain my dinner is done, and I'm ready in front of my computer because the chats were hilarious, and his subjects were great. I just loved the show. And then we got to know each other, and he invited me on his show as a guest. And then I was on periodically from time to time, and then I had the huge honor of being a regular panelist on his show. And that lasted for maybe 2 years or so, maybe a little bit longer. But not everything lasts forever. SithLordly is a very generous man. He's helped a lot of people on YouTube. Some have appreciated his help, some have not. He got inspired by a guy named TiVo. TiVo from Lords of the Long Box, if you remember that show. And I don't know if I've ever seen any episodes. I never met TiVo. But I mention that because Sith was my TiVo. He was my mentor, and he still is. I'm trying not to get emotional because, again, he's such a good friend. Love this guy. And Sith, thank you for everything. Maybe we'll do something down the road. You never know how things are going to work out. But I wanted to say thank you. You meant a lot. You meant a lot to me. You're more than a friend. You're a brother. So, thank you again. Check out Spine Ticks on every Saturday. Spine Ticks live at 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 Eastern. All right. Speaking of brothers, my brother Ray. He's an enthusiast to this show. He texts me often throughout the day, every day, about a variety of questions, and I can't damn his enthusiasm. But he asks me a number of things, and I answer everything as best I can, honestly. But there's one question I told him I will not answer. He has thrown out a few books, some slabs, for my consideration to say, hey, Dan, is this a good deal? And I said, I can't answer that. In fact, pardon me, let me back up. I will not answer that because I'm not an expert on finance, certainly with comics. I know the comics. I know the stories. I know a lot of the ins and outs. But I will never give him or any of you guys advice regarding what you should buy. I'm going to present some that you might want to consider because one of my jobs is to look for deals when they present themselves. And I found a good one today. The last one you're really going to love here. And I'm adamant about not giving anyone advice, even my own brother, because it's not my money. It's his money. And if he wants to spend it, he has to make the decision. I'll give him as much information about the aspects of the comic, but he and you have to make that decision. So, again, it's not what I want to do. I don't feel comfortable with it. So that's just, again, my job is to look for the deals where they present themselves and give you ideas and make a presentation. If you want it, great. If you don't, well, that's fine. And I've got thousands to choose from. So let's get into our next list today. So I almost called it a top 10. It's not a top 10 list. Silver Age. Let's begin here with the Silver Age book here. Strange Tales number 149. Nick Fury. He started with the Howling Commandos. In fact, I'll just show the book right here. In fact, you can see the Howling Commandos right here. Now, he was obviously a gritty, just no-nonsense, badass, not afraid of death whatsoever. You can see his Howling Commandos up here, and he's dealing with AIM. He's got the bareback, he gets up, surrounded by enemies, still fighting his way out, always seems to find a way, to success. And there's the backup story was a Doctor Strange story, which I have not read this. I'm way behind. Probably like most of you, I'm way behind on my comic reading. I haven't read this. It's on the list because I'm reading so many other books right now. Affordable. $10 or so. Not bad. This is in pretty good condition here. And as I've said before, the Strange Tales, Tales of Suspense, Tales to Astonish books, not that easy to find in high grade because they were kind of trashed for whatever reason. And it's Marvel Silver Age paper, which isn't high quality. But these are fun reads. Definitely fun reads. But speaking of Nick Fury, the writers had him grow, and which that's what you want to do if you're a writer for a TV show or a comic book or whatever. He started his own series, and I have a few of them. And there's a couple of aspects to this one here. And it's Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 7. And you can see he's in a trench coat, more of a 007, kind of character. Keep in mind, this is the era when Sean Connery was 007, who is, in my view, the best ever James Bond. He broke the mold. He really did. But they transferred him into sort of they morphed him in a way to more of that character, more of a espionage, spy versus spy kind of thing. So instead of the bare chested, flexing his muscles, no, he's more refined, I suppose, for lack of a better term. But the other issue, the other aspect of this comic here is, let me see if you can see it here, Jim Steranko. Jim Steranko art remains one of the finest examples of artwork in comic history. Still underrated, but very appreciated. He had such a unique approach to his style, and no, it was unmatched. He was in a league on his own. And these covers are just gorgeous all by themselves. So again, look how unique, almost Doctor Strange-esque, it's sort of the world is unfolding around him kind of thing. But that was the beauty of the Silver Age, and the Marvel had some of the best talent out there by far. Jim Steranko clearly is in that category. Let's switch over to the beginning of the Copper Age. I talked about heavy hitters, and this is a really inexpensive book here. After Secret Wars and after issue 300 for the Hulk series, he is separated from Bruce Banner. So he's just a raw beast with basically a very, very primitive mind. And he has to be subdued by 4 very strong powerhouses: Iron Man, Hercules, Submariner, and Wonder Man. And it took all 4 of them to subdue this mindless Hulk. So these are fun, very inexpensive books here. If you like these, and of course you can back up and see how he got here. If you get issues 300 all the way to here, he goes down a different, very unique path after issue 300. But anyway, this was a fun story, and love the cover. Look at the cast of characters is here. So, and this is probably the $7 to $10 range. Not that difficult to find at high grade because it's more of a modern book. Modern for my taste, by the way. I only buy Copper Age books. That's as far as I'll go. I won't go with modern books, but I do have a surprise for you regarding that sort of thing. Here's another one. Another Copper Age book. When what was it? Not the Winter Soldier. Yeah, it was Winter Soldier. That's right. When that came out, and they brought out, what's his name? Shoot, I'm drawing a blank on this guy. The new Captain America and Bucky. So here's their introduction here in issue 334. A very patriotic red, white, and blue cover. Very white pages with this. John Walker, that's what I'm thinking about. John Walker is Captain America. He begins training here. And what I didn't like, I love this comic. What I didn't like about the series was they killed off Battlestar. He's Bucky in the comic here, but that was the name that they gave him. They should have kept him. Killing him off, that was just a mistake. That sent John Walker over the edge. If you haven't seen that that series, it's still on Disney Plus. Worth seeing, and I love the interaction between Bucky and the Falcon. God, those guys were hilarious. But very inexpensive book, fun story, and again, a different phase in Captain America's life, which he's still going through. We're all waiting for the Avengers movie to see exactly what they're going to do. But John Walker's not done. John Walker's not done here. So this is worth your effort here, and worth a few bucks. Here's a story that this is a team that had a very interesting, unique origin, but went nowhere. And I'm talking about Champions number 1. Champions number 1 came out in 1975. And you can see the cast of characters. And it's Tony Isabella, this was his brainchild. He tried to do, I think, this is speculation on my part, what Roy Thomas did when he inherited Marvel from Stan Lee. He was their first editor-in-chief because Stan Lee went to do other things. Isabella thought, well, we got all these characters here. Let's kind of bring them together and see if we can form a team out of it. The problem is the writing was awful. And even the people who wrote letters to the editor in later issues said, where are you going with this? It seems like they're a team that has no purpose. And unless you have that kind of cohesiveness to your writing, have a purpose, have a direction, the team falls apart. It didn't last, 15 issues or so? And look at the powerhouses. You've got Hercules, you've got Ghost Rider, very inexpensive Ghost Rider if you want to, we talked about Ghost Rider being named at the San Diego Comic-Con recently. Early in his life, Black Widow. And the interesting thing is that with Iceman and Angel, this is literally just after Giant Size X-Men 1, when the new X-Men came on, and these two were out of the team. So Isabella picked them up and thought, well, hey, the X-Men's popular, maybe I could throw this into the mix. But again, there was no, again, the word cohesiveness, there was no unanimity with this, and people, it was a good idea, just it failed. But these are super inexpensive. And if you want to get some of these runs here, just because you can't go wrong with the characters, and they had a charm of their own, if you will. I wish it did have success, and they brought it back not that long ago. Had nothing to do with this team, but an very inexpensive read, and it's certainly worth your time. Or else I wouldn't bring it up. I'm happy that I have this issue. Another character earlier in her life was Jennifer Walters, the She-Hulk. The She-Hulk, the first, 25 issues. When I bought it, it was really a good story. I liked the writing. I liked the direction. It was unique. And then she started to, she was brought into other storylines, including this one here, Marvel Team Up number 107. And this is beautifully drawn by Herb Trimpe. I love Herb Trimpe art. Kind of a fun story. The introduction of one character who, spoiler alert, she dies in this, called the Man-Hater. It never went anywhere. But the thing I love about this here was that, as I've said, don't just buy for the cover art. There's so much art inside these comics that is lost because people don't open them. People don't read them. It's not just reading the story, appreciating this art. And Herb Trimpe, I think, remains one of the most underrated artists out there. He passed away, I think, about 3-4 years ago. One of you in the chat said you knew him personally. Wow, I would have loved to have met him because, again, the art was exceptional, especially his approach to drawing women. Now, the modern comics today, they over-glamorize women. They're just curvy and very over-seductive, that kind of thing. And yeah, that's eye candy, that's eye appeal. He made women beautiful. And there's some illustrations here of She-Hulk in a very beautiful way, and only the talent of someone like Herb Trimpe could bring that forward. That all by itself is worth this issue. Not expensive at all, $5-10-ish, and you can get them in a lot. As I said, you go to eBay and they'll sell a lot of these here, meaning that they'll have maybe 5 to 10 issues just to clump them together, and so you can get a good deal. Hopefully you find a nice copy. Well, this is actually a very gorgeous copy here. So, Marvel Team Up number 107. Speaking of the Hulk, her cousin, I'd always loved this one. Speaking of females, the most underrated female artist by far in the Silver Age was Marie Severin. And this is Hulk number 106. I love this cover. I love this comic. This is the second appearance of the Missing Link. Early in the Hulk's, life and so forth. These are just treasures. These are absolute treasures. They're not keys. Everything I show here isn't a key. It doesn't have to be. But I love each and every comic because I look to see what I appreciate in them, either the story art or the art itself, or there's an interesting tie, or some, little tidbit that you find. But I have a true love for the comic industry. That's why I'm doing this channel, to help you guys out. This is a little more of a pricey book. This is $30-ish, and probably more if you want a higher grade. These are a bit challenging to find in higher grade. This is a decent one, actually. I think this is probably a 6 at the very most, but certainly worth your effort. And speaking of Nick Fury, the Helicarrier. Remember that? Yeah, that was early on. Nick Fury does appear in this series as well. So I'll be profiling some of this era because worth it, underrated, underappreciated, worth having in your collection. Two more. Two more. I told you guys that well, maybe I didn't tell you, but I'd stopped. I was a loyal reader and buyer to Marvel Comics since I was a kid. I started in 1975 or 76. Incredible Hulk 197 was my first one. I still have it. It's beat to death, but for sentimental reasons, I simply won't get rid of it. And I read and read and read because I love stories like, as I've been profiling. This is literally the last new comic that I bought before I stopped. I don't know why, but I got my hands on this and I was so taken by it. I wanted to get a slab. And this is What If number 71 from 1995, a book most of you have probably never seen or heard of. This story here was very controversial. I'm surprised they actually wrote it because, the more time goes on, people are sensitive about this and sensitive about that. Pardon me. This story is, without spoiling it, it was written by Ian Edgington. I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name. Ian Edgington story. Larry Storman, Robert Stoll art, Phil Gosner, and Jack Sindler cover art. I've known none of these people, but this story got my attention in a big way. What happens is, this takes place in World War II. Instead of the H-bomb being dropped on Japan, something more deadly was dropped on Japan, a G-bomb, a gamma bomb. And the scientists at the time warned the government that this is new technology. We have no idea what's going to happen. They sort of kind of knew what was going to happen dropping an H-bomb. But dropping a G-bomb had very unusual side effects. And you can sort of guess what happened here. And I won't say any more because, again, if you have relatives from Japan and that are still alive from that era, that's a very touchy subject, and so I approached with caution, out of respect. But this was a dynamite story. This grabbed my attention. This is, again, the very last book I bought, and if you see it in a slab from my collection, that means it had my attention, and I absolutely adore this book. I've got several raw copies. This used to be $1 book all day. Now, again, the prices are going up, so they're about $5. Worth it. Worth every penny. So read it, and if you do get your hands on this, let me know. Now, the good news is, I was looking around. I've been looking around eBay a lot to find possible books for your consideration that are inexpensive and grails. And I found one currently on the market. I just looked a few minutes ago before getting on the show. And it's this one right here. I got this at GalaxyCon, which I'll be in GalaxyCon in San Jose in a couple weeks. So join me there if you want and reach out to me, see if you're going to be there or not. And I found this there, and I've been trying to put together my Avengers 1 through 100 series. And this one was there, but just, I looked at it. The guy wanted $200 for it. I think it's probably a 4 or 5, possibly a 5. And it's Avengers number 5. This is, again, one of the grails, extremely affordable for this level of caliber of comic. And I just looked again, the value of this hasn't gone up in a couple of years. It's still stuck there. In fact, it might have dropped a little bit. There was one, a lower grade, 1520 raw copy for less than $100, and a number of those for $150, and one maybe even better than this for $200. So again, depending on your finances and your caliber, there's the thought that instead of buying a bunch of little books, you save your money for that one big book. And this would be one of the things I would do. Yeah, your money, you've spent more, but you've got that dynamite comic in your collection. It's not going anywhere. So this is the value of the week. Again, I'm not telling you to buy anything. All I can do is find things that I present to you, things that I find, and then you have to make your decision from there. But God, I'm happy to have this. I'm still about 20 issues or so to obtain that 1 through 100 run. I still have a bit of work I thought it'd be farther ahead, but well, maybe next year or the year after I'll finally complete that, and then who knows what I'm going to do. Everyone, as always, thanks for joining. Thank you for all the wonderful comments. You guys are wonderful. I love talking to all of you. What an interesting group you are. What an interesting group of people you are. And I'm happy I started this channel. You know, quick history, I didn't want to start this channel. Friends of mine from other YouTube shows said, Dan, you got to start it. And I thought, I had so much else to do. And I started it kind of slowly and reluctantly. And now it's sort of taken off. And now I feel like we've got some momentum here. And it's just a labor of love to come up with these piles. It's kind of like a top 10. It's not a top 10. And, you know, it's fun to show my whole collection. I've got a long ways to go, guys. An awful long ways to go. But I'll enjoy each and every moment of it. And I enjoy each and every one of you for joining this channel and weighing in. Everyone, thanks for joining for the SBC Network. I'm Dan De La Torre, and this is Comic Book Corner.